Deloitte has recently come out with its 2025 Global Automotive Consumer Study that focuses on consumer trends in automotive industry. As per report, 36% of consumers prioritize fast charging, thereby underscoring rising expectations from EV infrastructure. Has a conversation with Rajat Mahajan, partner and automotive sector leader, Deloitte India.
For the auto industry, though the tariff uncertainty may cloud the global sentiment, but India's auto stories stay on course. EV choices are shifting with the cost in focus, but hybrids gaining ground and innovation driving the brand switches. But what's next for the Indian auto space? Let's take the discussion forward with Mr. Rajat Mahajan, partner and automotive sector leader at Deloitte India. Hi Rajat, good to be speaking with you and great having you on the show. Rajat, firstly, with all the noise around the tariff, keeping that aside, talking about the India growth story, one such segment that has done well is the EV space. But of late, that is seen to be taking a bit of a backseat. Help us understand, how do you see the trend shaping up in the EV space in India? And along with that, how big a role does affordability play in consumer preferences?
Thank you for having me. It's a great question. What we have done recently is we have just launched our Global Automotive Consumer Survey, which we do every year, and we've been consistently doing across 13 countries in the world, including India. The latest findings are exactly what you're saying, that hybrids, EVs, etc., have gained ground in the past years. This year, we are seeing, in case of hybrids, there is a slightly, we call it muted interest, and so is the case with EVs compared to, say, last year. However, diesel and petrol, which is the ICE engines, have gained slight prominence. Just to give you some numbers, when we interview customers, we realize that nearly 8% of the customers are interested in electric vehicles, BEVs. However, and this was like 10% last year. In case of hybrids, last year it was 24%, it is 21% this year. However, in case of ICE vehicles, it has moved from 49% last year to 54% of the customers thinking of an ICE vehicle. So yeah, I would say that this is a temporary phenomenon given the global uncertainties that we are seeing with respect to various geopolitical scenarios, as well as the infrastructure and other things associated with EVs. To your second question on affordability, I think it's for an Indian customer, the interesting insight that we found that nearly 62% of the customers who can afford a vehicle between, say, 20 to 25 lakhs, etc., are willing to look at EVs. However, the same number for an ICE vehicle is around 40, in the mid 40s. So there is definitely, you can say, EV intenders or people who want to buy an EV are willing to pay slightly more as compared to an ICE vehicle. But over a period of time, we expect that the expectation of the customer is going to be on TCO, which includes the entry-level price. Ideally, we should be at par or slightly, you can say, within a plus minus 5% delta of the ICE vehicle for an electric vehicle.
All right, but Rajat, the other factor with respect to the EV growth in India and the other roadblock, I would say, is the infra that we have. And people are now prioritizing fast charging. So are OEMs and infra players moving fast enough to meet that expectation, or is this the next bottleneck?
See, as per our study, what we found out was people who are buying EVs, for them, let me talk about why they are buying EVs, first of all. So in India, nearly 63% of the customers who are buying EV are buying out of environmental concerns. The second biggest factor, around 56%, is lower fuel costs, because the running cost is relatively low as compared to other powertrains. And the third is obviously driving experience. On the flip side, the barriers, right? I mean, why probably more number of people could shift to EVs, why they're not doing it. The top three concerns that they have is time required to charge. And this is exactly what you also pointed out, fast charging. 39% of the customers, which is the highest in this segment, highest number of customer, you can say segment, actually said that we want fast charging. because the time to charge an EV should not be beyond, let's say, 60 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. That normally happens in a, you can say, a slow charge charger. The second important element that came to our notice from the survey is the lack of public EV charging infrastructure. Now, so this is both of these things is time required to charge as well as public EV charging infrastructure seems to be the top concerns. And I'm sure most of the OEMs as well as the charging infrastructure companies are investing, but it will take its own due course. Another important thing is that nearly 70% in our study, we found out customers want to charge at home. Now, this goes contrary to the fact that, should we build more public charging infrastructure or not? Over a period of time, as the market grows, today we are in case of passenger vehicle around 2.5% or so EV penetration. When the EV penetration goes up and the charging infrastructure also goes up, then we will eventually know when the market is somewhere around 5 to 7%, somewhere between that range, that should the impetus be very high on the home charging or the public charging. Till that time, both needs to grow.
All right, but Rajat, despite affordability concerns, there's a growing traction for the hybrids. Now, even companies are talking about the new launches that they are planning, or how are they looking at the segment, since there is not much of a competition yet. But do you see them as a stepping stone or a serious long-term parallel to BEVs in India?
So, if we need to look at hybrids, right? The cost of hybrids and the cost of an EV, it's a significant difference. Today, an electric vehicle attracts a 5% GST, while the hybrids actually is at par with ICE. Another interesting data point is for electric vehicle, we are around 2.5% of the market share. I think similar 2.6% is for hybrids also in 24. Now, the key point to notice is that the selling price, average selling price of a hybrid is nearly 30 to 40% more than the BEVs. Okay, so we will only, if this remains as it is, I think both of them will grow. Expectation is that the electric vehicle battery technology costs will go down, including, we are already seeing lithium going down significantly, and that impact will be seen in the technology space in the next couple of years. So if that happens, battery electric vehicles will rise faster. However, if the government decides to bring parity of, let's say, bringing GST for hybrids as well as electric vehicle at the same level, then we can see a certain spurge or increase in the hybrid vehicle sales.
All right, but Rajat, now that we have discussed about the growth outlook within the segment, and now let's take the discussion towards what actually drives or what things attributes to the decision making for the individuals, and especially the young Indians. With your study, give us some sense that what young Indians are actually wanting and looking when they are making a decision to purchase a new car, and in that, how big a role does financial strain and urban convenience play?
So, it is a very interesting, output that we witnessed. AI in vehicle, artificial intelligence, connectivity. Indians actually, more number of Indians are prioritizing AI as well as smartphone connectivity compared to anybody else in the world. So just to give you some numbers, nearly 82% as per our surveyed Indians, think that AI is beneficial for the vehicles, or rather it's convenient for them to operate the vehicle using smartphone, etc. Now the same thing in China is 77%. So that's an interesting thing, that the Indians are willing to experiment. They are also willing to share personally identifiable information, which is mobile number, email IDs, name, and other things, right? Predominantly, if the OEM is, or the product actually delivers on certain specific use cases like anti-theft, emergency assistance, right? Warranty recalls. Now, some of these areas, Indian consumer actually wants convenience, and they're willing to share data and probably willing to pay more also for such features as such. Another interesting thing that we found was that the top reason, for anybody to switch a vehicle, okay. And by the way, I should give you this data is that nearly 72% of the Indians would like to switch their existing vehicle, which means that they want to try something new. Now, the top reasons for the switch is actually features in the car. So both of these things, Indians are experimenting. They like AI, they like connectivity, they like features, and they are willing to experiment, more.
All right, I must say, Rajat, very interesting data points that you have come out with in this report. But Rajat, it's not just about how consumers are making their buying decisions. It's the other shift that we are witnessing is how the offerings are being made to the customers. Given the digital shift and now that the manufacturers are directly willing to go ahead to reach the customers, help us understand that within the dealership model, what kind of a shift you are witnessing and what are the industry trends suggesting?
So what we found was nearly 76% of the Indian consumers are, you can say, interested in buying directly from the manufacturer. All right. Now, before you make some conclusions, let me add another data point to it. 82% of the consumers are willing to buy insurance directly from the manufacturer or the OEM. So, which means that the consumer is placing a lot of trust on the OEM, the brand in itself. But as I said, right, we got to look at it along with a few other data points. And what are those data points? Nearly 92% of the consumers, okay, still would like to interact with the vehicle physically, would like to, you can say, interact with a person physically, would like to negotiate in person. Now, this is startling, right? Nearly 89% of the consumers said, yeah, while I trust the OEM, but I'd like to sit across the table to negotiate. Now, what does this mean? This means that direct to consumer probably in a four-wheeler space, right? Maybe slight some distance away. However, agency models or any alternate models where the OEM controls the prices, etc., may be possible. At the same time, dealership, physical infrastructure is extremely important as we speak, given the insights that I just shared.
All right, but Rajat, now with the experience, we have to admit that what the car companies are now offering in terms of the vehicles, it's not just seen as a mode of travel. They are trying to offer a whole lot of an experience within the time that you travel with your vehicle. So now, how much is the innovation in the tech and the features driving the brand loyalty, and how does it influence the buying behavior of a customer?
So, as I said, right, nearly 82% of the consumers, they love connectivity. They love AI in the vehicle, and they think that it is beneficial for us to have this. See, Indian consumer, a large part of the Indian consumers' buying behavior, it's not price, okay, which is something that used to be there probably pre-COVID. The number one reason for a person to buy or rather choose or get a particular vehicle or a brand in the consideration list is product quality. Okay, this is what we have found out from our research, our survey. Nearly, I think, uh, and one of the reasons for this is this includes safety, okay, which is also a very important element. Nearly 62% of the consumer want product quality and safety to be taken care of. Okay, so Indians want AI connectivity features for sure, but the number one is product quality and safety. Yes, followed by vehicle performance and features are the reasons why Indians buy. But yeah, safety and quality are becoming paramount as we speak.
All right, but Rajat, I just want to refer to that point you were making, and you were discussing on what factors are actually driving the decision making for the young Indians to go ahead and make a purchase. And what the data suggests, I was just referring to a report, is that almost 70% of the 18 to 34-year-old are open to mobility as a service over ownership. What's the writing on the wall of the car makers and their traditional models?
So, yeah, this is nearly 70%, as you rightly said. Young adults in India between 18 to 34 are willing to forego vehicle ownership in favor of mobile consistently. In, I would say, last year, this number was around 67%. But the more important thing for us to see is, or study is that this is the highest in the world compared to other geographies. Just to give you a perspective, right? US is around, I would say, 40% compared to 70% or 42% compared to the 72% that we are at. Okay. Japan is at 38%. So yeah, so Indians are, willing to experiment different types of mobility services. And one of the reasons for that is also the young population does not want too many assets and they want freedom to operate, which means that subscription and any other services that we are seeing right now being launched by the OEMs and other players gives them a flexibility to start stop at the at their own convenience, and at that point in time what affordability levels plus any other expenditure that they might be thinking of doing.
All right, Rajat, with this, we let you go on that note. Really appreciate you taking the time out and joining us in this special discussion and helping us analyze the trends that are shaping up when it comes to Indian automotive industry. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.